I thought it was just a doll in a shop window, but that was before it showed up at my front door, unboxed, smiling, and watching. I hadn't even known what Labubu was. Not really. I was out that afternoon to clear my head, walking through side streets after a fight with Mira over something stupid. We lived together, 2 years into a lease we couldn't afford to break, and arguments had become part of the background noise. It was raining just enough to be annoying. That cold, misty drizzle that clings to your hoodie and soaks your shoes. I was about to turn back when I passed a vintage toy store tucked between a boarded-up cafe and a psychic reading place. I almost missed it. There were no lights on inside, no open sign, just a display window filled with old dolls and worn plush animals. That's when I saw her. The doll sat perfectly centered in the window, legs crossed, wearing an oversized pink hoodie. Her ears curled forward like she was listening. Big, black eyes and a wide grin that didn't look painted. It looked stitched on, stretched too far across her small face. Her fur was soft gray, almost silver, and she looked like some cartoon forest creature from a dream I couldn't quite place. I don't know how long I stood there staring. Something about her felt wrong. Not in a dramatic way, just off. Like when you see a photograph that's been edited ever so slightly and you can't tell what's been changed, but you know it's not natural. Still, I felt pulled toward her. Not by beauty, not even nostalgia. Just this quiet urge, like she was meant to belong to me. There was no price tag. The shop was closed. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. 2 days later, I came home from work to find a package waiting at the apartment door. No postage, no barcode, no delivery label. Just a plain brown box with my name on it in marker. Not printed, not typed, handwritten. Large, neat, and unmistakably mine. Inside was the doll. The same pink hoodie, same wide grin, same impossible eyes. No receipt, no sender, no explanation. Just Labubu, nestled carefully in paper like she'd been sleeping. Her fur smelled faintly sweet, like dust and old perfume. Her arms were stiff, but her body felt warm to the touch, warmer than it should have been. I called Mira into the room, holding the doll out like it might bite. "Did you buy this?" I asked. She looked at it and shook her head, confused but not freaked out. "Nope, not my style. Creepy little thing." I wanted to tell her it wasn't creepy, that it was kind of comforting, but I didn't. I just shrugged, said it was probably some weird delivery mistake, and brought Labubu into my room. I set her on the shelf above my bed, between a stack of sketchbooks and a box of old photos. She didn't really match anything in the room, but I didn't care. She felt right there. Looking back, I wish I'd thrown her away that first night, because that was the last time I felt normal. That night, I dreamed in colors I don't have names for. I remember the desert, or something like one, endless and gray, not sand, but ash that stuck to my feet and filled my mouth. Wind howled low, like someone whispering just out of earshot. In the distance, something tall moved through the haze, not walking, drifting. Its arms dragged behind it like smoke. I woke up gasping. My sheets were soaked. My neck was cold. I don't remember getting up, but I found myself sitting on the floor at the edge of my bed, like I'd crawled there in my sleep. The window was open, and the air smelled like metal. Labubu was no longer on the shelf. She was perched on my chair across the room, angled toward the bed. Her little arms rested on her knees, her head tilted just slightly, watching. I didn't remember moving her. The next day, I convinced myself it was stress. Bad dreams, sleepwalking, a prank I forgot pulling on myself. I put Labubu back on the shelf and tried not to look at her when I got dressed. But all day at work, I felt off, like something was clinging to me. My hands kept going cold, static buzzed in my ears during meetings. I kept imagining I could smell that same metallic scent from the dream. That night, the dreams came back. Not the same, worse. Now I was underground. Tight stone walls pressed in from all sides. Wet dirt ran down my arms. I wasn't alone. Something breathed behind me. Not loud, just close. So close I could feel its lungs expanding. When I turned around, it wasn't there, but Labubu was. She stood at eye level, just outside a circle of light. Her hoodie was darker now. Her fur soaked, matted. The grin had sharpened, like it had teeth. Mira started noticing things too. She'd give me these strange looks in the hallway, like I was a puzzle she couldn't solve. One morning, she asked if I'd left anything by her door. I told her no. She didn't press, but after that, she made a point of keeping her bedroom locked at night. I don't blame her. I kept waking up with cuts I couldn't explain, shallow, jagged lines across my legs and arms. My skin itched all the time, like something was crawling under it. I stopped sleeping with the lights off. I stopped sleeping at all, really. The apartment felt colder. Even when the heat was on full blast, the air around Labubu was always freezing. I'd try to ignore her, push her out of sight, even shove her into a drawer, but she always found her way back, always upright, always facing me. One morning, I went to the kitchen and found her sitting in the fridge, right on the top shelf, next to the milk. I hadn't put her there. No one had. She was just waiting. That was when Mira stopped speaking to me. She still lived there, but the way she moved changed. She avoided my eyes. Her footsteps were careful. She left for work earlier and came home later. One night, I woke up and found every door in the apartment open. The closets, the bathroom, even the front door, unlocked, wide to the hallway. Mira's bedroom door was closed, but something was standing outside it. Tall, still, too tall. When I blinked, it was gone. By then, I had stopped pretending this was normal. I started researching late into the night, scrolling through forums and archived threads, down rabbit holes of folklore, demonology, dream paralysis experiences. And one name kept surfacing in the strangest places: Pazuzu. I'd heard it before, I think, maybe in a movie, but this was different. This was ancient, Mesopotamian wind demon, bringer of plague and nightmare. He wasn't summoned with rituals or sacrifices. He came through attention, fixation, the act of looking too long, wanting too deeply. The thought made me sick, because I had wanted that doll. Just a moment, just a glance in the window and a passing thought, I wish I had that. And that was enough. The apartment felt quiet in a new way, not peaceful, vacant. Mira hadn't come home. Not that night, not the next morning. Her bed remained untouched, her shoes still lined up by the door. Her coat, keys, purse, all in their usual places. The only thing missing was her. I called her phone, straight to voicemail. At first, I told myself she just needed space. Maybe she left without waking me. Maybe she was angry, and this was her way of cooling off. That's what I told myself, right up until I opened her bedroom door. The air inside was still, undisturbed, but on the bed, resting on her pillow like it belonged there, was a single sheet of paper. No handwriting, just clean, centered text printed in bold. She belongs to me now. I didn't move for a long time. There was no logic that could explain it away. No prank, no coincidence. It didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a claim. Mira was gone, and whoever had taken her didn't plan to hide it. The worst part? I didn't even scream, just backed out of the room slowly, heart hammering, throat tight, like any sound might break something already on the verge of shattering. The door clicked closed behind me, but the feeling didn't leave. I turned toward the hall and froze. Labubu wasn't on the shelf. I checked the usual spots, the floor, the desk, the bed, nothing. And then I noticed the fridge was slightly open. My hand trembled as I reached for the handle. The cold air spilled out, and there she was, Labubu, sitting upright on the top shelf between the milk and a jar of pickles. Her little pink hoodie was stiff from the chill, her head tilted, her grin unchanged. But her eyes, I could have sworn they were glossier than before. I closed the fridge gently and backed away like she might jump out if startled. Every inch of my skin crawled. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I didn't try, but because the moment I closed my eyes, the dream pulled me under like a riptide. Back to the desert, that endless expanse of ash and scorched air. Only this time, it was different. Now there were bones, not scattered, arranged, laid out in patterns, circles, spirals, shapes I didn't understand but instinctively feared. The sky above pulsed, not with light, but with heat, heavy and oppressive. And he was there, Pazuzu, not a vision, not a shape in the distance, standing close, too close. He didn't move like a person. He hovered, not floating, but unrooted. His wings stretched behind him like torn sails. His skin was cracked, like old stone, and something pulsed beneath it, just out of sight. And his eyes, they weren't glowing anymore. They were empty, and yet I couldn't look away. He raised a hand and pointed behind me. I turned. Labubu stood alone in the ash, small and still, but her shadow stretched impossibly long, all the way to my feet. When I turned back to Pazuzu, he was smiling. That was when I woke up. Blood ran from my nose. My sheets were twisted like I'd been thrashing. My throat ached, raw and dry, as if I'd been screaming for hours. And the window was wide open, again, though I remembered locking it before bed. Labubu sat at the foot of the bed, closer now, like she had crept forward just a few inches. I didn't touch her. I didn't even move. Just lay there under the covers, wide-eyed, heart-pounding, and waited for morning. But when the sun finally rose, nothing felt lighter. The light didn't push back the dark. Not anymore. I didn't leave my room for 2 days. I kept the door locked, though I knew it wouldn't matter. Nothing felt real anymore. Not the light through the windows, not the food in the fridge, not the ache in my chest when I thought about Mira. She hadn't just vanished. She'd been taken, claimed, and I had invited whatever did it. Not with words, with attention, with desire, with that one moment in the rain when I stopped and stared too long. I spent hours reading everything I could find. Old articles, cursed forum threads, scans of books that should have been lost. It was always scattered, always fragmented, never enough to understand, just enough to warn. One name kept returning, Pazuzu, a demon of wind, illness, dreams, pestilence, fear. A figure that wasn't summoned with ritual, but with obsession. And that's what made him so dangerous. You didn't need to believe in him. You just had to notice. That night, I cleared the room, pushed my bed against the wall, covered the floor in towels, then made the circle. Thick lines of salt, sharp edges carved with chalk. I used what symbols I'd seen repeated over and over, not knowing what they meant, but knowing I needed something between me and it. At the center, I placed Labubu. I didn't wrap her this time. I didn't hide her. I let her sit, arms on her knees, hoodie neat, head tilted. She looked patient. I lit the candles one by one, their flames flickering like they already knew what was coming. With each spark, the room darkened instead of brightening, like light itself had weight, and something was pulling it away. The air dropped, not in temperature, in pressure. Something was here. And then the north candle died, just a faint puff, like a sigh, and the flame vanished. Behind me, I heard breathing, not deep, not human, just slow, wet, like wind through a ruined throat. I didn't turn around. Instead, I closed my eyes and began to speak the words I'd practiced over and over. the ones pieced together from a dozen desperate posts written by people who never updated again. It wasn't a banishment. There was no holy command, no exorcism. It was a severing, a dismissal, a message. You have been seen. You have been named. You are no longer welcome. The floor beneath me started to hum, a low vibration, like the whole room was breathing with something buried underneath. The salt trembled, then cracked, not because of wind, not because of movement, because Labubu stood up. Not slowly, not mechanically. She simply rose. Her legs straightened, her arms dropped to her sides, her head turned and tilted again, not toward me, but just past me, to something behind me. The breath on my neck was colder now, closer. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. I couldn't even look away. Labubu's smile grew wider, not physically, just somehow more, like it now extended beyond her face into the room itself. The candles blew out all at once. Darkness swallowed everything. I was in the desert again, but this time the sky was moving, a swirling red above, churning like a storm. The ground cracked beneath my feet. Shapes crawled across the ash. Not people, not animals, something in between. Their mouths stitched shut, their hands raw from dragging. And in the center of it all, rising like a god, was him, Pazuzu. Not imagined, not distant, real. His wings stretched across the sky. His face, cracked and ancient, looked down not with rage, but with ownership, like I was already his. I tried to run, but the ground gave way beneath me. I fell into a pit of hands, cold, grasping, pulling me under. And in the darkness, Labubu was waiting, still smiling. When I woke, I was lying on the floor in the center of the circle. But it wasn't a circle anymore. The salt had been blown away, the chalk smeared, the candles were melted down to their stubs, and the smell of smoke lingered in the air even though nothing had burned. Labubu was gone. So was the cold. So was the sound. For the first time in days, I was alone. I don't know what happened that night. I don't know if the ritual worked or if Pazuzu just lost interest. Sometimes I still hear the wind under the floorboards. Sometimes I see a shadow in the corner of the room that wasn't there before. Mira never came back. Her room is still locked. And every so often, I dream of that window again. The toy shop, the rain, the doll. And every time I wake, I check the shelf, just to be sure. Because if she ever comes back, not Mira, but Labubu, I don't think I'll be able to send her away a second time.
If you've made it this far, you know some doors should never be opened, and some gifts should never be accepted. Have you ever heard the stories about Labubu before tonight? Or do you think it's just a doll? Let me know in the comments. If you want more stories like this, make sure you subscribe, because what's coming next is even darker. And remember, just because something's cute doesn't mean it's harmless. Sleep well if you can.